So I'm pretty sure you've seen this clip on social media somewhere. Now, whatever context you've seen it in probably shapes your perception of it, but it's from 2006's Little Miss Sunshine, which stars a 10-year-old Abigail Breslin as the titular character Olive Hoover, Paul Dano as her older brother Dwayne, Alan Arkin as their eclectic grandpa Edwin, Toni Collette as their strung-out mother Cheryl, Greg Kinnear as Cheryl's trying husband Richard, and Steve Carell as Cheryl's unemployed suicidal brother. The film follows Olive and her family over the span of 3 days on their journey to the Little Miss Sunshine beauty pageant in Redondo Beach, California. They pile in their mustard yellow Volkswagen van and start the 800-mile journey, one that was filled with everything, really. Encounters with the police, broken dreams, a run-in with an egg cells the catalyst for a suicide attempt, breaking a dead body out of a hospital, casual body shaming of a literal child, the works. And yeah, it plays out just as chaotically as it sounds. And in the midst of all of this chaos was a glimpse of quiet, or rather silence. Dwayne. When I first watched this movie, I couldn't shake the feeling that I understood Dwayne on a molecular level. And it left me kind of surprised because no, I've never had to ride in a big yellow van with a chunk of my family and during it have the world-shattering revelation that I can't be the one thing that I've always desperately wanted to be. But God, did I understand that heartbreak. And did I understand having a dream shatter right before your face. And boy, I certainly understood that being a teenager is hard. So, with those feelings in tow, I fell down a rabbit hole of interviews and ended up here with Paul Dano saying this.
That character of Dwayne, I knew him, and there was a specific friend I had thought about when playing that part, and I didn't know how many other people, I guess, would also know him, because it felt like they did once the movie came out.
That interview gnawed at me for weeks until I finally dredged up the courage to try to analyze just why so many of us, teenager or not, relate to this complex character. Early into the film, we learn that Dwayne, Olive's raven-haired, Nietzsche-following 15-year-old brother, has taken a vow of silence until he can achieve his dream of becoming a pilot in the Air Force Academy. Now, let's talk about Dwayne and Nietzsche for a moment. The most glaring connection my brain made with relating Dwayne and his devotedness to Nietzsche, to us, the audience, is that of our first major infatuation. He has a hand-painted sheet with the face of Nietzsche on his wall and clearly takes note of Nietzsche's philosophies and applies them to the way that he behaves, hence his vow of silence.
Is that Nietzsche? You don't speak because of Friedrich Nietzsche.
Now, take your regular schmegular teenager, or shoot, maybe even take yourself. I'm sure they've or you've had some seemingly life-altering moment of finding some figure or idea or thing and grasping onto it desperately. And before you knew it, it was an entity that became entirely synonymous with your being. For me, it was writing and film. I would read and write 24/7 and eventually became known as the reader in both my household and at school. When I got a little older, I fell absolutely in love with the world of film and spent countless hours handwriting film reviews and watching Oscar ceremonies. For you, it might have been that album that you played on repeat, or that TV show that left you in awe, or that athlete that defied physics, or that book series that you just couldn't get enough of. Regardless of who or what it was, much like Dwayne's devotedness to Nietzsche, every teenager can pinpoint that moment when that one thing just clicked. And I think the writers were very intentional with having Dwayne be devoted to Nietzsche specifically. Friedrich Nietzsche is known for many things, but is arguably most widely known for his complex relationship with nihilism, which is the belief that all values are baseless and that nothing can be known or communicated, or, as the Google definition states, extreme skepticism maintaining that nothing in this world has real existence. Now, before you click away because I'm giving you a philosophy lesson instead of a character analysis, think about this ideology in reference to the attitude of a teenager. The belief that all values are baseless? If this isn't the very plight of teenagerism, then I don't know what is. I've heard so many classmates be like, what is the point of all this anyhow? And honestly, kind of real. But anyways, and also no, this is not me saying that all teenagers are nihilists, But I'm saying that Dwayne, with his mop of black hair, his distinctive silence, and his bleak, unmoving outlook on life, is kind of like the hyperbolized personification of teenage angst. Now, that's not who he is as an entire person, obviously, but a very large chunk of who he is steeped in relishing in either pain or nothingness. Take the scene, for example, when Uncle Frank is talking to Dwayne at the dinner table.
So who do you hang out with? No one? What about your family?
Dwayne relishes in being alone, going as far to say that he hates everyone, family included. Now, it's never necessarily to this extent, but I feel like most teenagers have gone through that period of just wanting to be left alone. But whether or not they show that outwardly is entirely dependent on the person. And going back to nihilism for a second, there's a bunch of different ways that it's interpreted. Existentially, metaphysically, morally, politically, or optimistically. Dwayne chooses to interpret nihilism in a way that suits him, choosing to stay silent until he's able to leave home and find a purpose that neither school nor his family provides. Which, when you kind of think about it, is super ironic considering that the blanket understanding of nihilism is nothing actually matters, but for Dwayne it's kind of flipped. It's nothing actually matters except for making it to the Air Force. So let's wrap back around to the root of all this scene right here. The Hoovers are in their busted yellow van when Olive decides to show Dwayne a sheet that has a green letter surrounded by red bubbles, a colorblindness test. Olive asks what he sees and he writes, "What?" She asks again and again he puts, "What?" Frank realizes what's going on and the next thing you know, he lets this slip.
You can't fly jets if you're colorblind.
Dwayne loses it. His dream, this goal that he gave 9 months of his voice for, was gone in the blink of an eye. Now, there's one parallel that I really want to point out here. Earlier in the trip, we see Richard, Dwayne and Olive's dad, go through the exact same thing. He loses this dream opportunity, which effectively kills any kind of momentum that he had for his 9-step plan of not being a loser, essentially. Both dreams were crushed, and funnily enough, Dwayne's delighted by his father's failings. In fact, the first real smile we see is when he hears his mom and dad fighting over what Richard's shortcomings mean for the family's financial state. But when it's Dwayne's turn to have his dreams pummeled, he loses it on everyone, telling his family that he hates them over and over and over.
I hate you! Divorce? Bankrupt? Suicide? You fucking losers! You losers!
It isn't until his little sister hugs him that he calms down. Now, I would never ever go off on my family like this, but I can't say that I didn't understand him. There's just something about that feeling that Dwayne personifies that can be felt by teenagers everywhere. It's that feeling that the world's quite literally against you at every turn and for everything. The things you can't control, the things you can control, just everything. Like, I have homework due tomorrow that I haven't touched. Why does the world hate me? I got into a school that I love but can't afford. What's up with that, universe? It's just the woes of existing as a teenager. I feel like I'm going on a tangent here, but the last thing I want to really mention is this scene in the final act of the film.
You know what? Fuck beauty contests. Life is one fucking beauty contest after another. You know, school, then college, then work? Fuck that. And fuck the Air Force Academy. If I want to fly, I'll find a way to fly. You know, you do what you love, and fuck the rest.
Okay, 2 things. A, superb scene, love it, 10 out of 10. B, by this point in the movie, Dwayne's speaking again. He's not completely shifted away from nihilism, in my opinion, more like pivoting to the optimistic version of it. But regardless of that, nihilism or not, this speech offers a lesson of acceptance of circumstance, a fundamental part of growing up. Accepting the change in the constantly evolving world that teenagers, more than anyone, are subject to adapting to. So yeah, like long story short, being a teenager can kind of suck, but seeing the experience in characters like Dwayne can make figuring it out kind of interesting. And plus, you can end up spending like 3 days researching philosophy, so that's awesome. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I would love to know y'all's thoughts. If you agree, if you don't agree, if you think that you agree with it but you want to tweak the way I think about it a little, I would love to hear any and everything. If you related to Dwayne, please let me know why. If you didn't relate to Dwayne, let me know why. I'm all ears to everything. Thank you so much for watching, and also thank you so much for the response on my last video. I'm kind of shocked. I did not expect people to want to listen to my opinion like that, but thank you guys so much. And I hope you really like this, and I'll see you guys the next go round. Bye.